Alrighty, it's time to continue the work on the 1954 International Pickup Chassis Swap on the 2003 F-150 chassis, frame, engine, you know, that kind of stuff. The next thing we really have to do is do the fenders and mock up this front end, but we can't do that until we have, you know, something nice to bolt it to. So I'm kind of thinking, let's make a superstructure and our tilt front end first off of what we have, then we can break our tacks at the back and basically center up our fenders that way. So let's start working on that. Let's build a tilt front end from scratch. Welcome to High House Stable Garage. So we're in the main shop, and I took down some measurements of some cuts that we're going to need to do this job. And basically what we're going to end up doing is building a superstructure for that tilt front end. And the best thing that I've figured out is we're going to use this. It's 5/8 inner, 7/8 outer, basically poo pipe, but no poo ran through it, you know what I mean? It's pipe. And it's pretty small, it's 1/8 inch wall, but again, the longest we're going is about, I don't know, 4 feet, one section. I don't know if you can see this. That's the amount of flex it has on about a 30-foot length. Can I get closer? It's not a lot. So I think if we build it all out of this, except the hinge we're gonna have to basically do bushings and stuff. But if we do the superstructure out of this, it's going to be so strong, it's going to be unreal. But it's going to be relatively cheap, which is good. So I'm going to measure this out. I'm going to start cutting this up, and I'll see you guys back at the barn. Alright, so these are all the tubes that we cut up at the big shop, and our plates there. The idea is, roughly, we're going to put our plates right here and here. I just got to square up the frames first. We'll put our plates, then we'll have a main bar that will come across, basically come down, and our hinge section will be somewhere down below, and it will tie in both of these. So, first order of business is to square these frames up, cut them, put our plates, get that situated, and then we can figure out where we're going to put our hinges and then build off those. So let's do that. We got to see how long our frame rails are to each other. So the best way for me to do this is to go off our upper control arm mount, and we'll kind of go right there at the bottom and right to the tip of our frame to the, I believe it's the longest section, roughly 13 inch. Okay, let's go to the passenger side. Roughly 13 3/4. So I figured that was going to be the case when I cut them, just because I cut them pretty conservatively on this side, just because of our main mount here for our idler arm. As you can see, there's an idler arm mount there, but we can still go in by basically a whole inch, so that 3/4 of an inch is going to be 100% okay. So I'm going to quickly chop that, square them up, and I'll bring you guys back when they're squared up, and then we'll put our plates. I got them pretty squared up, so what we're going to do now is simply plate off both end caps, and we're going to square them up with basically a piece of square stock that I got lying around here. Make sure that they're okay that way, and then we're going to weld those up, and then we can actually start building the tilt front end. But we got to do some baseline stuff first, so we'll do a couple tacks on them, then we'll do a couple just hot passes, likely just a little bit on each side, just to make sure that main brace piece is 100% structurally sound. We won't finish weld it, but we'll make it pretty structurally sound, and then we'll build off the rest. So let's do that. Alrighty, so I laid down a few tacks on this. That's capped off. Come over here. This one's capped off. I'm just gonna lay down a few more hot tacks across the entire thing, just to make sure it's nice and solid for when we start mounting things to it. So give me a second. Now that they're all there, I'll glue them down a little bit better, and I'll be right back. All right, so we surged ahead a little bit off camera, but it's all right. You guys didn't miss out on a lot. This is the hinge section that we made right here. It's the eyelets that we poached off those shocks, and then these are the trailer shackles. We got it pretty squared up. This end here needs to go in just a little bit, but nothing a little bit of hammer work won't fix, which is good, or even putting it in something and just giving it a little bit of a twist. So basically the idea of it now is we take these, we weld them to our brackets that we put in, and then the rest of our pieces, we're going to build a little skeleton on the inside for the hood, the front clip, and eventually the fenders, but for right now it'll just be the hood and the front clip. We'll be able to hinge that, and it will all rest on these two pivot points right here. So, let's try to weld these onto that frame. That's the hinge system all welded in right there. So now what we're going to do is fully weld that in on both sides. Just for now, just keep it all fully welded up, and then we're going to start building the rest of the hinge mechanism. The next course of action is to basically build up my hinge section. As you can see, it's right there. I'm going to take these little guys, put them just on the corner right there, like that. Square them up, and then I'm going to put my other big bar that we cut, where is it? I think it's this one, and he'll span across the entire bit. So it will be basically like a big square, and then from there, then I can put in basically my hood supports and stuff like that right off of that square. So let's put those in, and let's get at it. Square that little guy up. There we go. Fully weld-ish. All right, let's get that top one on. Do now that we have our hinge system all structurally in there-ish, what we want to do is basically make some bars that will join up the hood, and then we can add a little bar going down to the bottom. But what we really have to do is get this angle or get this bar angled to the same piece. So let me show you guys what I got. So what I got here, it's like what I like to call it a Harbor Freight pipe kinker, but it's a Princess Auto hydraulic pipe bender. You gotta use this just a certain way, but on this small diameter pipe, it actually bends it pretty good. So we have the small die inside. We moved our rollers all the way in, and then on our pipe, about every inch or so at the very beginning, we're gonna bend it down. So, without further ado, let's get a little bit of a bend in this. There, relatively not that bad, a little bit under 90. And if you walk it, you keep the kinks a little bit at bay, but there's pretty much no way around it. There's some tricks in trade, but if you're not building a roll cage, it really doesn't matter. So let me flip you guys around. This pipe is gonna come in kind of like this, just like so. It actually ends right here, so we'll have to do something on the back. It's a little short, but that's okay. But what we want it is we want it to kind of rub on this so we can add a tack, or we can add some weld there too. But what it looks like is once we get this, we gotta add a few bends going in like this. You know what I mean? Some bends on this side right here. Alright, so yeah, basically it's gonna come in here like this and hug. Hug our whole system. It'll turn out pretty good. Not gonna lie. And it touches right there on the hood. That's what we want. That way we get a little bit more contact points on this entire thing. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hold it like that. I'm gonna weld it in. I'm gonna make the other side, I'm gonna weld that in too. And then that is gonna incorporate our hood into this, at least just kind of relatively. See, it fits so snug, it's already just kind of sitting there. Next course of business is we're gonna have to try connect our front end to our superstructure. I have a whole bunch of these little rods, and then I have a whole bunch of cold roll 1/4 inch that we're gonna be connecting basically our solid most structures on this to our superstructure. That's how we're gonna kind of branch out. So, I'm gonna measure up some cuts, we're gonna cut them up, and then we're gonna weld them in. So let's do that. I cut 2 of these. They're 1.25 feet. So basically, they're gonna go down in the corners. I'll show you. Basically, they're going in the corners just like that. Poke them inside the tube, just kind of like so. And then they'll hang out kind of down in the corner just like that. I'm gonna weld them in. They're gonna help support that corner right there. And then we're likely gonna do another one right to there. Just bang, 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 bang. So 4 total. And that should solidify that a lot, and then we'll see how much more we have to do to it. But that's what we're gonna do for right now. Let me do that, and then we're gonna move on to a center brace. We're kind of at that point now where I can keep going, but it's a struggle to get certain parts onto this now without flipping the hood. So really, the only thing that should be stopping me from flipping it are these tacks right here, or safety tacks, our main alignment tacks. And then all the weight should be on the hinges. Now, the only thing is, we don't have any bracing up here across the hood. It's only our side bracing connected off to the sides on here in the bottom to our main brace. I have other braces made, but I can't really get them in there. So, we're gonna chance it. Worst comes to worst, we'll have to put it back, realign everything, and really struggle through it. But it's gonna be ages easier to get our center line pieces in with the hood flipped down. So that's what we're gonna try. We're gonna try to flip this sucker down. Whatever happens, happens. If we ended up cutting too soon, the whole thing on the top at least, is gonna fluff out a little bit. If it's held together strong enough, the hinges should take their weight, and we can add gussets and stuff later on. So, without further ado, let's crack this piñata. This seems to be relatively strong. I'm gonna add my brace in nice and easy now that we're here. We're getting awful close to our tires, like really close. We might have to just, you know, chop that. It's not ideal. I know we already just did that, but we might have to. It's hard to say. So, now that it's opened, what we really wanna do is add in our bracing, the stuff that we couldn't before. So we'll do that, get it nice and hot, then maybe even we'll take off this lip or roll it or something. The next part for this front end piece that we want to do is solidify the hood up. So I made these bars right here, just inside the bender, a left and a right one. They just kind of go in something like this, nice and easy. Just leave it there for a second. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna tack them in, and then we're gonna start working down here, adding some structure to this bottom piece because it's a little flimsy just because it's on a flat piece of steel, and that's about it. So I kind of want to solidify up some of the welds underneath, but we're going to basically tack that guy in, and it will kind of hold the shape a little bit better for this whole thing. So let's do that. Alrighty, so what we're going to do now is we're going to weld in these little squares right here. As you can see, this goes on the top of our main connection point to the truck. Basically, we're going to weld those in because those are going to be a platform for a connecting beam to go from here to the top of this plate. I notice when it's opened, it flexes a little bit. I want to take that flex out. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to tack these in, fully weld those right now because we can, and then we're going to build off our beam. So let's get at that. So yeah guys, that's kind of what you want to do. Get a little brace set up. I cut out a piece of pipe, angled it, beveled it, welded it in on our patch, and welded it right to the frame. Takes out all the flex in this one joint here, and then all we have to do is basically add a bar from here to here, and then one across, vice versa on the other side. And the overall structure for our flip hood is basically done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a long time coming, and I'm happy we finally have it. There's still little bits here and there I have to finish. I gotta do a whole bunch of finish welding on this front end. Whole bunch of stuff. We got a big old spool of welding wire just for this front end to sink into it. Gotta do a little bit more bracing up front, but that pretty much concludes this front end. If you guys built it the same way I did, and it doesn't matter what kind of vehicle you have, if you follow the same principle with this exact skeleton, you can make a front end flip kit on virtually anything, which is pretty awesome. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned something. I know I sure did. And we'll catch you guys in the next one, likely putting fenders on this truck, so stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys in the next one really, really soon. Okay, see ya.